I have had fibroids. I mean, I have some now. They told me I needed to do they call it a myomectomy.
Yes.
So it was a robotic myomectomy. And that's the solution I was given. And at that time, a lot of women weren't talking publicly like how I see now. Those days, it was literally like, okay, the doctor said I should do this. This is what I should do. And that's what I did. But then new ones came after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we need to have more orgasms.
What? She said we need to have more orgasms?
We need to start having more orgasms. We need to start prioritizing our emotional and mental health. We really need to start looking at our lifestyle.
Hello, my name is Ivy Prosper, and I tell stories from Africa and the African diaspora. Today is a really important conversation because it has to do with women's health. And we all know that we have women in our lives that may be going through some of these challenges when it comes to our womb health. And it's a conversation that maybe some of the men in our lives don't know much about. And the women, they want to talk, but they don't for whatever reason. They feel a little bit uncomfortable and some apprehension. So today I have Phyllis Frempong, who is a holistic and wellness womb coach. And she is going to talk a lot about what we need to do as women, especially as Black women, as African women, when it comes to healing ourselves. Because there are things that the medical industry has suggested that we can do, but there are also holistic ways that we can work towards healing ourselves. So let's dive into this important conversation today. Phyllis, thank you so much for honoring my invitation to come and talk to me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
It is a much needed conversation. Yeah. So I want to first do a quick introduction about what you do, who you are. Yeah. So you can tell us what is your background and what led you to become who you are with doing women's health and wellness.
Yes. So my name is Phyllis Frempong. I'm a holistic coach, and what I do is help women naturally eliminate fibroid or hormonal related symptoms in 30 days or less.
30 days?
Yes, yes. And we also help women move towards becoming a better version of themselves because we understand how our mental and emotional health plays a big role in our womb health. And it's not just me, I'm a part of a team, so a doctor and other practitioners. We support women in the Unique Holistic Program. So this is an online program where resources are provided to help women that struggle with PCOS, fibroids, endometriosis, trouble getting pregnant, even losing belly fat, right? And we provide resources to help them heal and really seek more out of life when it comes to their passion and purpose. So my story started years ago. I was told by my doctor, who looked me right in my face and said, Phyllis, you ended up with fibroids because you're Black.
The doctor actually said that?
Yes. Yeah. So that was the last time that I allowed anyone to tell me the fate of my body. Not only that, there was no deeper conversation in that doctor's office about my lifestyle, the stress that I was dealing with, my emotional health. It was simply just another Black woman being handed a surgery slip.
Now, for those who are watching and don't know, what are fibroids?
So if you look it up online, fibroids may come with this medical jargon that may be hard to understand, like non-cancerous, benign. But basically, fibroids are little balls of muscle that grow on the uterus or anywhere around it. It can grow in other areas of the body, it may be called something different, but they grow in or around the uterus and they can grow. And if you don't take out the garbage, they'll keep growing. I'll get into more of that. So they can range from the size of a pea to as big as a watermelon. So they can grow. And the thing is, fibroids thrive on toxicity, chronic inflammation, stress, unhealthy eating patterns, and that's something that's not talked about enough. So fibroids are preventable. They can shrink with the right approach. However, a surgery and or a medication does not provide a long-term solution to get rid of them.
You know, it's interesting you say that because I have had fibroids. I mean, I have some now, but I had 5 massive ones that were surgically removed. They told me I needed to do they call it a myomectomy.
Yes.
So it was a robotic myomectomy. They removed 5 of them. One was the size of a cantaloupe melon, and then the other 4 were the size of large grapefruits. And that's the solution I was given. And at that time, a lot of women weren't talking publicly like how I see now on social media and different places. You see a few more, still not enough, but we see a few more now. Those days, it was literally like, okay, the doctor said I should do this. This is what I should do, and that's what I did. But then new ones came after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we need to have more orgasms.
What? She said we need to have more orgasms?
We need to start having more orgasms. We need to start prioritizing our emotional and mental health. We really need to start looking at our lifestyle, right? So these endless surgeries, these repeated surgeries, the medications are all adding to the problem. And one of the things that I do as a coach is really educate and empower women to believe that they have the power to really live the life that they want and be in control of their bodies.
Okay.
Once we subconsciously let that go, sometimes we're just not aware of it. And we have to rely on the hands of a drug, someone, or something. And a lot of that is temporary. It doesn't get to the root of the problem. So more orgasms.
What does the orgasm do? What does it do? I'm sure people are wondering.
Yes. So when we think about feeling good as women, right? When we think about chronic stress, when we think about not living in our passion and purpose, there's a lot of buildup in our womb. And once we get in a state of flow, relaxation, being in a state of creativity most of the time, there's going to be more of a space of healing inside the womb. There's going to be more circulation, more lymphatic drainage, more happiness and joy. When we're in that state, we run less of fibroids, problems with not getting pregnant, not being happy with life. So it's really a holistic perspective. And I say, we need to have more orgasms is because the rate of women really being fulfilled in intimacy and overall their life is very, very low. And when you constantly have this state of flow, including orgasms, you counteract chronic stress.
Interesting.
So when you increase that love hormone, your chronic stress level goes down. Chronic stress is a major player in fibroid growth. So once we start making our emotional, mental, needs a priority, we start doing things that help us feel good, right? Self-care every day, and really living a lifestyle that invites an uplifting community, that invites passion, purpose, a community that helps us stay accountable to those things so we can live our best life.
Now, did you study all of this after you found out you had fibroids? Or were you already in the holistic, nutritional healing space?
Believe it or not, this was all part of my healing journey. So I've been a registered nurse for almost 20 years. I am also a personal trainer and yoga instructor for about 10 years. Through that experience, I still ended up with large fibroids, even competing as a bodybuilder when I found out.
You were a bodybuilder?
Yes.
Wow.
In my late 20s, when I found out that I was dealing with fibroids and high cholesterol, I decided to join a gym, and long story short, I met a bodybuilding coach. She influenced me to join, and I competed for 8 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was that like?
It was...
I didn't expect to hear this.
Yeah, it was magical, especially in the beginning, because I was overweight. I was 30 pounds overweight, and being able to set a goal, a fitness goal, getting support, being a part of a community, I was able to really just drop the weight, compete in a bikini in 3 months. So that like upped my motivation and confidence to not only do more shows, but also become a personal trainer and help others be able to reach their fitness goals. So that's when I started getting into fitness and wellness. And then it slowly trickled into more of a holistic realm of things when I realized that the fibroids that I was carrying on my uterus end up growing, right? My doctor told me to watch and wait. And that's what I did. So I watched and waited, and they grew to almost 9 centimeters. And that was one of them. So I was at a point where I was very, very disappointed with my body. I'm like, how could you fail me? Like everything that I was able to do, like compete, eat healthy, you know, like they tell us to do. I was a nurse, right? So I thought I knew better. And caring for patients that also suffered with fibroids, and then seeing them back, getting another surgery. So with my dynamic background as a patient of color, a medical practitioner of color, and doing all the right things that society tells us to do, fibroids still grew to the size of, you know, a grapefruit. So with that experience and the disregard when I was at my doctor's appointment about the why and, you know, the how with fibroids, I nearly went down a road of depression. And once I realized that if I don't get out of bed today, I'm going to be deeper in this dark hole. So something came over me to just get up, get myself ready, carry on the day. And I ran into a video, like a YouTube video from Joe Dispenza. And he bridges spirituality with science. So I started listening to his teachings, as well as Queen Afua.
She's coming to Ghana again.
Yes, she is. And Jewel Pukram. And even the opportunity to work with Queen Afua, that was like amazing. But being able to hear all their stories and teachings of how they went from being told that they needed surgery to healing themselves naturally, that really, really inspired me to do more for myself. So my home turned into a lab.
I can imagine.
Yes, it turned into a lab where I started to experiment with different concoctions. I started to try different herbs out. I changed the way that I worked out, the way that I was eating, thinking. This was like at least a few years of, you know, trial and error. And finally, finding a system that I call the unique holistic formula is what I use to have shrinkage and elimination of large fibroids. So it's a step-by-step way of literally boosting your lymphatic system and cleaning out your body. And when you get rid of the garbage, you are going to be able to have a way of making an unwelcoming environment for any growths, any hormonal imbalances, with your lymphatic system working as it should. And that's the number one thing. Even as a nurse, I was not taught anything about the lymphatic system, only if it was related to like cancer and so on.
Right.
But we need to know this as everyday life, that as we mature, our lymphatic system pump does not work as adequately until we do other efforts within our lifestyle to boost it.
And what does a lymphatic system do for somebody? Because there's people who will be watching and they won't know what it is. What does it do?
Yeah, so think about your garbage can, okay? If it gets full, normally we take it out, right? However, inside of our bodies, there is a garbage removal system, which is called the lymphatic system. And what builds it up, where it starts to slow down, is the toxicity, is the chronic stress, is our unstable emotional health, not taking care of ourselves, not having fulfillment, not feeling good most of the time. All of that can start to build up in our system. and cause a lot of residue, things to grow, unwanted things to grow that shouldn't be there. And another comparison I want ladies to think about is your garden, right? If you don't water your garden, you don't give it sunlight, you don't talk to it, right? You don't touch it, right? It'll die, right? So we have to ensure within our lifestyle we're getting the right supplementation, right? Getting that hormone D, right? Ensuring that we're eating more fiber, leafy greens to help boost our lymphatic system. When we work out our emotions, let it flow out, our worries, our anxieties. Are we living in our truest passion? Are we, working in purpose? Spiritually, where are we? So all of those things can create residue if they're not in alignment. And what the lymphatic system does is it helps clean out our bodies. And when there's imbalances of any one of those things, it can cause a slowdown.
Okay.
And the slowdown is going to look more in your midsection.
Yeah, like with the belly fat, or with the fibroid growth.
Yes.
Some women look like they're pregnant when they have fibroids, and it can be very uncomfortable. And for some women, they feel ashamed and embarrassed when they have that there. So, what are some of the kinds of foods? Because I feel like that's one of the things that people can work on quickly. Because I feel like our emotional health, yes, we need to work on that. However, I feel like the food is something that can be done immediately, because with our emotions, it takes time working through. People may be going through therapy or whatever it is. But with the food, it's like instant. You can change what you're eating tomorrow.
Absolutely.
What are some of the foods that are feeding the fibroid growth? Because it might be that somebody might just be eating something every day, and that is causing it to, the fibroid is like, yes, bring it on. Yes, let's enjoy this. What is it that people need to eliminate?
Yeah. We can still eat guro, right? I love my jollof. We love our kenke, fufu, rice ball, ayede. However, too much of that is dangerous. It will drive up the chronic inflammation, the hormonal imbalance, and our blood sugar. It'll spike our blood sugar, send it on a roller coaster.
And that's because the food is full of, the Ghanaian food we're talking about, that a lot of starch.
Yes, there's a lot of starch, and the portions.
The portion size are wild. Someone will bring you a plate of food and you're like, is this for two people? Or
on top of that, the time you're eating the food.
Late night food eating is not good.
So one of the things we teach in the Unique Holistic program is helping women align with the rhythm of their body, like their menstrual cycle. Even if you're going through menopause or you don't have a period, you are working on a cycle. And everything we do has to align with that cycle. If not, we're going to run into hormonal imbalance. So when it comes to the Ghanaian food, yes, eat it. It's fine, right? However, ensuring that you're also incorporating on your plate at least 70 to 80% of green leafy veggies, right? Fiber, and also supplementation. We are in a world where a lot of deficiencies are happening through the food we're eating. So it's making us move towards infertility, crazy menopausal symptoms early. So supplementation can be wise when it comes to just a standard way of eating here. So probiotics as well is going to help with the bloating. There's a lot of bloating that comes with starchy food that also takes space within the womb and midsection. So green leafy veggies, probiotics, supplementation, and hydration are good starters to really help pump the lymphatic system and get your metabolism to move at a consistent rate.
Is there anything that we can also be doing? Because I've seen some videos lately where people are doing these things like, you know, I'm probably not doing it right, but they're doing these things that are supposed to help you with draining your lymphatic system. Are those things that we should be incorporating as well?
Absolutely. That's one of the things we teach with our warriors, is to not only work out, but also tap, feel,
the tap. The tap.
Move. physically move your drainage. And that's, again, going to help boost the lymphatic system. So those are things that I would say to incorporate. And it can take 5 minutes a day just to tap around the armpit, right? Above your collarbone, around the neck area. As soon as you rise, it can be a game changer in just helping to clear out your throat chakra, your sinuses, and all of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now, your journey, you were told to do surgery, but you chose not to.
Yes.
What were the steps that you took to heal yourself?
Great question. Step number 1 is realizing why I'm here, why I'm physically here on earth. Realizing my purpose, my passion. And that's what drove me to open up my mind to other ways to heal. When I was stressed, emotionally locked up, I wasn't thinking at this capacity. And I feel like that added to the problems with the heavy flow, the pain, the bloating. These are normal signs that you can see with fibroids. So step 1 is realizing your purpose and passion. Step 2 is joining a community that has achieved or is working on the goal that you desire. So what does that mean? Going beyond a doctor's appointment. Many of us are walking around thinking, oh, I'm healthy. I go to my doctor every 6 months, every year. However, most doctors specialize in cutting you open or giving you a medication. Now, if you don't want to do either of those things, you're going to have to seek beyond. And that can be sometimes hard for people to understand, that you cannot rely on your doctor. Your doctor is human. Your doctor may have went to school a little bit longer than you. However, you make the decisions. You are the driver of your body. So joining a community that speaks a language that helps you gain some clarity, that way you can figure out what direction you want to go to make an informed and intentional decision about your womb health. Number 3 was going beyond the traditional. So with me learning about the size of the fibroids and how they grew pretty rapid, I realized how what we've been taught is not something that is long lasting. So I really had to start to think about my emotional health and started taking things off my plate, off my schedule, started putting myself more as a priority. And I did go into intermittent fasting. I also incorporated cellular nutrition. I believe that we have to eat based on our circadian rhythm, our menstrual cycle, but also our skin color. There are certain foods that may be reacting to our melanin that we may not be aware of.
Like what?
White rice.
White rice. So white rice is not good for people of African descent?
What I'm saying is white rice acts differently in those of color.
Okay.
White rice acts differently in those of color. So it metabolizes different in us versus someone who's Vietnamese. So,
And in what way?
yeah. So white rice reacting with our melanin can turn into sugar faster. So it immediately spikes our blood sugar. And constantly exposing ourselves to that have that roller coaster effect with our blood sugar, and that moves towards hormonal imbalance. So if we focus on more darker foods, right, like brown rice, wild rice, black rice, purple rice.
I love black rice.
Yes.
I do.
It'll metabolize more richer than eating foods that are white and starchy. So when it comes to cellular nutrition, I focus on that, and that's what I teach women, is to really eat for you. We are unique, and we need to be addressed that way to ensure our needs are being met. So I switched the way I was eating, incorporated more darker foods, and still had some flexibility. I can still eat the fufu, but ensuring that I'm eating in moderation. Instead of it being 2 cups of fufu, maybe a half a cup,
Yeah.
right? And also intermittent fasting was very intentional. That allowed me to give my body a rest. We don't realize that it takes a lot of effort, a lot of taxing on our bodies to digest food.
It does.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why people feel tired,
Yeah.
because the body is using all its energy to
Yeah.
digest the food. And you have that, you know, afterwards, you just want to sleep. And
Yeah.
And then just going to sleep after you eat isn't good either, because you're not really burning the food in the way you're supposed to, because you're sleeping.
Because you're sleeping.
Yeah.
So that is the culture that I've seen here. And one of the things that involves in our unique holistic formula is ensuring that you're eating timely, right? During lunch, where the sun is the highest, where your metabolism is the highest, that's where you want to have the bulk of your meal, right? So that's cellular nutrition. The second pillar of how I was able to eliminate and shrink fibroids is through the way of movement. So I created womb wellness workouts. And it's a way to really pump your lymphatic system, but at the same time, these are exercises that are curated specifically to help alleviate the hormonal symptoms.
Okay.
Yeah. So as you were doing earlier, the tapping, we do a lot of that in the workout. Still weight training, still doing the pelvic floor exercises, primal movements, flexibility. However, it's more intentional to help balance the hormones. Many women don't realize that just going to the gym, running outside, doing that HIIT training could be making their symptoms worse.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
How so? Because I mean, I like the HIIT training because it's like, little bits of different types of exercises in like intensity. So how could that be also harmful?
Yeah, there's a couple reasons. With our menstrual cycle, there's certain times of the month where you have the most energy. Could you resonate with that?
Yeah, I agree. That's true. Yeah.
And then there's some times in the month where you don't have much energy because your body's getting ready for what's
getting ready for the menstrual cycle, or you're in the menstrual cycle, losing blood, so you're anemic because your iron is low.
So if you think about you doing a consistent HIIT training program, you can run into imbalances and stress because your body may not be in the right phase for that type of workout.
Right.
That's one way. Secondly, many of us are walking around stressed.
The world we live in, our lifestyles, work, responsibilities people have, that just adds stress to their life. Yeah.
So when you walk into a workout, your body may not realize that you're working out. Your body may think this is another stressful episode.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes.
I wouldn't have thought of that.
Yes. So intentional workouts is highly important, and womb wellness workouts allowed me to understand that I do have a uterus. There is a connection that I need to maintain. It allowed me to really pause and reflect more in life versus being on this hustle bustle. Like, I got to do this. I got to catch this bag. I got to do this. I got to do that. And really slowing down. So these workouts are very, very beneficial when it comes to alleviating womb issues. The third pillar on how I was able to eliminate and have shrinkage with large fibroids is emotional regrounding. So,
oh, that's a deep one.
Yeah, much so. And it requires going deep when you are unlayering years and years, generations of, bent up emotions. We're talking about the energy of racism, microaggressions as Black women, being treated, in a way that we are not heard, not seen, and not realizing that if we don't address those undue emotions, those bent up emotions, they just build. So emotional regrounding is a way to uproot your emotions. In our program, we have women see our emotional regrounding coach, where she helps women identify how to move towards their greater self.
Okay.
It's not like a therapy session. It's totally different. We focus on the now and the future. And it really gives women a lot of clarity. And once we are in this state of clarity, it helps break up the stagnant, the stiffness that's going on in our womb. So those 3 pillars are my main pillars for the program. So the cellular nutrition, emotional regrounding, and womb wellness workouts. There's more to it, but for this dialogue today, I really want women to leave with understanding their passion and purpose. Pull out your journal, right? Start writing down where you want to be, how you want to feel, and start today, right? Because the more we can embody and live the life that we want now, the more likely it's going to happen.
That is so true.
Yeah.
That is so true. What would you tell some of the men in our lives? Because I know that it's important for us to have the conversations, but I also strongly believe that the men also need to understand, because I was having a conversation with an Uber driver yesterday, and I mean, this is a little bit off topic, but not off topic, but on. He said he delivered a baby in his Uber.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was like, what? He said, yeah, he delivered a baby in his Uber. And the conversation came up because we were just talking about, different experiences. And I was like, different interesting experiences he has with different customers in his car. And he said, oh, I delivered a baby. I was like, what? So I brought that up because he said, as a man, he didn't really know what childbirth really was, because he just knows woman's pregnant, she's going through things, and then she gives birth.
Right.
Because typically, in Ghana especially, they often don't let the men come in when the woman's giving birth. The man is out there, then she comes out and there's the baby's there. The nurse has the baby and then there's the baby. So he was like, I never in my life have seen what a woman goes through to have a baby. He's like, women, you go through a lot that we don't know. And he said he almost felt like he was going to faint when he saw the baby's head coming out of her body, because he's like, a head was coming out. And he's like, I just didn't know what to do, but I had to help her because she was in my car. And he had to help deliver this baby. So he was saying how, he wishes that men knew more, because it was a shock for him to see that and to know what she was going through, because he was like, she was in so much pain and screaming. And he said, when I saw that, I said to myself, I don't think I want to get a woman pregnant or have her have more than one baby, because it was just so traumatizing to see. Yeah. So it was an example to me of how a lot of men don't truly understand what it is that women are going through. So what is it that we can share more of with them so that they know, like when a woman says she has fibroids, a guy might just be like, oh, well, what is that? It's not a big deal. Just take something and you'll be okay. What can we do to encourage them to be supportive and understand?
What we can do as women is start working on ourselves to be more expressive. So these spaces that are sacred, but also invite you to be vulnerable. That way you can start to communicate with your loved ones, specifically your partner, your man, on how you feel, right? Different times of the month, what's going on with you. Because the more we can do that, the more they can understand. It really starts with us. And thankfully, I'm seeing more and more men in my practice come into my DMs, send us emails about their women.
That's good.
Yeah, it's really good. I'm just so grateful for these supportive men, because we're constantly in this state of holding things in. And when we're running into painful sex or not wanting to be intimate, it leaves our partner questioning, like, what's going on? And just imagine if they knew how supportive they could be, right? And for the men that are watching, if you see your women experiencing some of the symptoms we share, like heavy flow, she's going to the bathroom a lot, she's very, very tired all the time, you may want to suggest to her to get an ultrasound to confirm if there is fibroid growth, or get some lab work to ensure she's not running into any type of anemia or, etc. So be aware of things that take her off of her norm. And also, we as women understanding our cycles, our menstrual cycles and our bodies, so we can better communicate to them, because the way we feel today may be different in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And that may be an argument.
Yeah.
Right? And it's not always what he did. It's how we're feeling and how we are expecting different things from people, but we're not expressing it. They don't know, right? I was talking to one of my clients, and she had an epiphany because we were talking about our menstrual cycles. I was educating her on what you may see hormonally and how you may respond to things. And she realized she would get upset on certain times of the month at her husband, not knowing that it was during the menstruation phase or the luteal phase when our hormones are usually up and rapid. So for the men listening, just be there, right? Be supportive, ask questions, and provide that space for your partner to speak.
Yeah, it's so important. I was telling a guy how, he's like, his wife is nagging. She's always nagging. And I said, look at it from a different perspective. Instead of saying she's always nagging, you should ask her what she's going through. Because I said, you guys don't understand that every month for about 40 years of a woman's life, she is going through this cycle where I'm like, there's the premenstrual phase where her hormones are going a certain way. Then there's the actual menstrual phase where she's having her period, she's bleeding out, so she's low in iron, her energy's down, she may be having pain because of cramps. Then after her cycle's done, ovulation, your ovaries are squeezing to try to get the egg out, and for some women it feels like someone's stabbing you with a knife as you're trying to release the egg down the fallopian tube. Then when that's over, and if she doesn't get pregnant, the body's like, oh, you didn't get pregnant, let's shed the lining again. And you're starting all over again, And I said, and if she gets pregnant, now the baby's inside and growing, and the baby is growing on her organs, her liver, her spleen, her pancreas, everything. The baby is just resting up inside on her organs and moving around and kicking and all that. And she's feeling all of that. So be understanding that she's going through something that you're not experiencing. So just ask what's going on instead of saying she's nagging.
Right, right. I mean, oh my gosh, you just spoke some gems. And I feel that when men are aware of what's going on, you may be surprised at their response. Because I know it can come with a lot of shame and guilt when it comes to just even sickness culturally. Like, you have something wrong with you. You can't get pregnant. It's like, has there been voodoo placed on you? So there's a lot of layers of narratives, false narratives that can keep a woman from being expressive and having that sense of vulnerability. Because when we start to open up and soften up, we're going to notice that it's easier to get resources that we want. It's easier to find a doctor that understands us. It's easier to be a part of a community. But this resistance, this anger, frustration, it's like, you caused this, you did this blame. A lot of that energy adds to the emotional blockages that add to fibroids.
That's so unfortunate. Now, earlier in the conversation, I know that fibroids are your main focus, but earlier in the conversation, you also mentioned endometriosis. Do you deal with clients with endometriosis as well?
Yeah, primarily my clients deal with PCOS, endo, adenomyosis, and those that may not have any womb issues specifically, but they're dealing with hormonal symptoms. See, what happens is the hormones start to go on this roller coaster effect, and that predisposes them to a womb issue. So if you notice that you're dealing with a lot of acne, bloating, fatigue, heavy flow, yet it hasn't been confirmed that you have anything growing on your uterus, that is a wake-up call to do something, right? And I would encourage those to hire a coach that's familiar with the space. So yes, other clients that I have do vary from fibroids to infertility, even diabetes. I'm seeing an influx of not only fibroids, but diabetes, but it's all hormonal. So when you're dealing with a hormonal issue, there's no telling on what specifically, the organ that's involved, so.
All right, so let's shift the conversation. I know that within the African spaces, there are a lot of holistic practices that are done. And I know when I went to my doctor, and the doctor was telling me where my hormones were and stuff like that, that there was the recommendation of taking, different drugs to help balance the hormones. But then there's like people who do the healing stuff here who are like, oh, just mix these herbs, mix that one, and then you'll be fine. And it's something that, here it's a normal thing. Do you have any special concoctions that you use to help women, and what recommendations do you have?
Yeah, when it comes to that, that's such a dynamic and just highly confused space when it comes to herbs, holism, and even medications. For the record, no medication, drug is going to get rid of something so deep such as fibroids or any other womb issues. Number two, when it comes to herbs, you want to ensure that you are getting this advice, this education from a trusted community. Just like medications, herbs can have adverse effects. They can regress your results. They can make things worse. What we do on this end is we help you identify what your symptoms are. Many women say, oh, I don't have any symptoms, but you have fibroids, so you do have symptoms, right? You're just not aware of it. So based on your symptoms, we can match up the appropriate herb that's going to address that symptom. So I would definitely encourage women to go to a trusted community where they are able to show you testimonials of women they've been able to help in this space. There is proof, right? You've been able to hear from another friend that she's had results. That's the way I would go about it versus just any random person on IG or TikTok telling you just to take this and your fibroids will just disappear. I don't think that there is no way for that to happen. There's no magic fix. At the end of the day, we are human beings. We're not robots. And we need to incorporate our lifestyle, right? Our mindset, our emotional health, and start moving our bodies in a way that's going to help clean it out. And if we can stick by those basic practices daily, we can really optimize our health and really live the life that we want versus constantly being on the next drug or the next surgery or spending a lot of time in the hospital, right? You may think, oh, I'm in my 20s, I'm good. Honey, you keep building up with this Uber Eats and, these endocrine disruptors with the skin products you're using, you're going to end up with something. So I think there should be more focus on that versus a microwave option when it comes to, let me just get on this herb. But I am saying, yes, herbs do work. Are they going to get to the root of the problem? No. However, pairing the right herbs with the symptoms, you're going to get more results. So that's my take.
Okay. And for yourself, how long did it take for you to get results once you started on your journey to reduce your fibroids?
So the unique holistic formula that I teach, it took me 30 days to get rid of pain, heavy flow, and bloating. That quick.
That is so fast. Because
Yes.
I would expect it'd be like 3-4 months before you start seeing any results.
No, 30 days. When your body is given the resources that it needs to heal, your immune system is boosted, you're moving, you're flowing, it does miraculous things.
What was the best thing that you think worked for you?
The best thing was tapping into my emotional health. What we think, how we feel dictates how our bodies work. And once I started to realize that I was constantly in stress mode, even with experiences that happened to me in the past, I never really healed from that or addressed it. So it kept replaying in my subconscious mind. Yet I'm here doing a high intensity workout. So understanding that our bodies absorb whatever our thoughts, emotions stand on. And if we're spending a lot of time being unhappy, people pleasing, trying to meet others' expectations and putting our self-care on the bottom of the list, we're going to constantly run into this buildup until it's time to get a hysterectomy, right? Many women that look like us are running into these hysterectomies like it's candy. Over 95% of hysterectomies are unnecessary. Many women, up to 80% of African American women will or have fibroids. Over 90% of Ghanaian women have fibroids. So there is a silent pandemic going on. And if we don't wake up to the fact that we deserve to feel good, we deserve to feel good, we need to prioritize our emotional and mental health, start looking at our lifestyle. We're going to perish, right? Our wombs are going to perish. It's going to decay. The garden is going to die. And that's where we are. So we have to really wake up. More orgasms.
More orgasms.
More flow.
I'm like, the guys are going to like to hear that. So, in this whole, process of working on yourself, like, the mental health, emotional health, that is something that here in Ghana, like Ghanaian culture, people don't tap into talking about their emotions as much as I see, in Western or European society. There's very much this closed off secretiveness sometimes. No, we don't talk about this. That's not something you discuss openly, keep it to yourself kind of thing that happens with a lot of people. How do we get past that culturally?
Yeah. Your channel, right? Having more spaces like this. And that's what I plan to do here in Ghana, is really build that legacy of opening up sisterhood, womb wellness community here in Ghana, and really change the narrative to being more expressive, because this will prevent us from going down this road of, disease once we start to open up and let go. And what I started doing is not only online teaching this, but having spaces here in Ghana where I'm inviting women to get out of their comfort zone, right? To move their bodies, to move their hips, and having more experiences like that to allow more women to start coming out, especially the younger generation. So that way we can change the narrative within our DNA on us being the high risk for fibroids and other womb issues.
High risk. Do you know why?
I believe it has a lot to do to exposure of information. I know when I was told that I needed surgery, the doctor hinted towards a hysterectomy first. I speak to my white counterparts. They were told a UFE, which is another type of less invasive procedure.
What's a UFE?
Uterine fibroid embolization.
Okay, the embolization.
Yes. Okay. So I feel like lack of information, also the way that our body metabolizes different things, from oils, right? Things we want to avoid when it comes to our nutrition is canola oil, peanut oil, all of those.
Really?
Oils. Yeah.
Canola and peanut. Canola I've heard people talking about because that's the corn one, right? But peanut oil?
Soybeans, sunflower, yes. Those oils interact with our melanin in a way that predisposes us to diabetes and other inflammatory diseases versus our white counterparts, or those that don't have melanin. So being aware of how unique we are as melanated people, we are powerful. You look at sports, we're always mostly number one. We have that power within us. However, our oppressors know that. So there's a lot of things within our environment, from the pads we're using, the skin products, that is reacting to our skin color, our pigmentation, and causing damage within our body, leaving residue within our blood. So I feel like the skin color component plays a role. I feel like the energy of racism still lives in our body. Like, it's still going on. It's just more modern. It's subconsciously going on. So having space to release, right? When you get home from work, how are you letting go? Like, how are you releasing some of that buildup that you endured the day of work, where it's been so busy, so crazy? So if we can be aware of how unique we are, powerful we are, and how we're like sponges, we absorb things differently. We absorb stress, chronic stress differently than, our other races. We endure chronic stress differently than other races. Our skin color is highly absorbable. So we just know things. We get downloads. We know we have that intuition within us. So there's a lot of power in us as melanated people, but are we aware of it? And once we start to realize who we truly are, our bodies can operate more efficiently. Another consideration that I feel that predisposes us to womb issues is the diet. A lot of the nutritional remedies, nutritional meals, cultural meals that have been passed on in this environment is producing more problems in our body. We cannot get away with these oils that we're using, the sunflower oil, cottonseed oil. It's causing a lot of inflammation. Stress looks differently now versus it did 20 years ago. So we have to employ more plant-based, natural forming foods within our daily intake, because a lot of the foods that are being made are fake. They are GMO. So we're getting less and less nutrients. And with this melanin, it's its own body. So it needs sun. It's like a garden. It needs sun, vitamin D. It needs vitamins, minerals. Once we start treating our bodies like a temple, something greater, then we run less at risk to what we're predisposed to. I used to say for a long time that I ended up with fibroids because my mom had it. That's what I would say. But at the end of it, I realized that I ended up with it due to the same generational patterns. So repeated generational patterns also can put us at risk. I eat like this because my mom ate like this.
Right.
But you and your mom are two different eras, two different generations. So things are going to look differently.
Right.
Yeah. So that's why I feel that we are more predisposed to certain diseases than others.
Okay. Well, I mean, you, with all of your expertise, you're coaching women. So when you're doing your coaching, is that virtual? Is it in person? How are you doing your business?
It's majority
supporting women.
Yeah. Thank you for asking. It's majority online. And it looks like more of just a team, a virtual holistic team, a doctor, herbalist, emotional organic coach, and myself, just leading you on this journey with resources from womb wellness workouts to getting on the right herbs, meal plans, everything that you need to build a lifestyle that brings you passion and purpose, vitality, and just really living the life that you want.
Yeah. What does a womb workout look like?
Yeah. So a womb wellness workout is an experience. It's an experience where there's highs and lows, right? So it may start off slow, it may start off high, but our intention is to focus on what we want to let go of and bring awareness to our breathing. Am I breathing? Asking yourself these questions. So being conscious while you're moving your body and feeling it as well. So being present, being here for life. And it really speaks to how even myself, I would be living in the future or living in the past and thought I was doing something, but not realizing I wasn't really enjoying life. I wasn't really here for it. So these workouts provide an experience for us to really just introspect, to think, to feel again, feel good, but also work the body, pump the lymphatic system. So a lot of the workouts do entail weight training, using band resistance bands, high intensity, Pilates, yoga-based movements. It's just a blend of all different modalities, but the intention is to provide you balance. Yeah.
And what do the women usually respond most to? What do you find usually has the best results with all of these different workout possibilities?
Often with the blend of womb wellness workouts as one, right? So it's a format that blends all different types of workouts together in one package.
Okay. So it's not like somebody can separate and say, oh, I like this part. Let me stick to this part. It all works together to make it all flow.
oh, yeah, it's holistic, right? We can do strength training, but how are you getting your cardio? We can do just flexibility, but how are you working on your stability? So we need to address everything holistically and as a cycle, so that way we stay in hormonal balance.
You can find Phyllis on Instagram at Fibroid Queen, where she shares a lot of her personal journey as well. I came across her page quite some time ago, and I was impressed because I was like, wow, you know, she's really sharing a lot here and giving information and tools for women. And I appreciated it, even though I already did what I did when it came to my fibroids. I still thought it was important for me to have knowledge and learn about what you're doing, because there could be other people that I could share the information with and talk to them. And I think that's part of the key for helping each other, is being willing to share information with each other. Because I went the surgical route. I didn't think about the holistic stuff. I went and just removed them, and but then new ones came, and when the new ones came, I didn't decide to go for surgery again. Now I had heard about, you can, reduce this, reduce that in your diet. And so that's what I started doing. And they haven't grown like how they used to the first time. They're just there now. They haven't shrunken, they haven't grown, they're just there, but they're very, very small now. So it's possible that the way I am eating, that's why they're not growing. Like they did before. I used to eat, oh my goodness, I'm going to share this with you all watching. I had like a serious sweet tooth for the longest time. I mean, I still like my sweets once in a while, but now my sweets tend to be more fruits. But I do once in a while like a good cheesecake or whatnot, gelato or something. But this is embarrassing to say, and some of you will probably be like, ew, Ivy was doing that? Oh my God, there was a time when Krispy Kreme donuts opened up in Canada, because they weren't in Canada, they were all over the US. They opened up in Canada, and the place that I worked, you would drive past it, and the light is flashing at the time that I'm driving past the office. That light flashing means that there's fresh Krispy Kreme donuts ready, hot off the presses. I used to eat a dozen of those every day.
You're kidding?
Yeah. Oh. They would just melt in your mouth, and I would have a coffee, and I would be eating a dozen of those. Now I think about it, I'm like, that's so gross. Ugh, I can't believe I did that. But my mom was like, you're eating this every day. This. She's like, just because you're slim, outside you're slim, but inside something is going on and you'll regret it. So she would always be saying to me, you can't, just because you look good doesn't mean that inside something's not happening when you're eating this every day. It was so gross. I used to do that. And then I used to also eat 6 chocolate bars every day.
What?
There was a dollar store opposite from where I worked, and you can get 2 chocolate bars for $1. It was 2 for $1. Sometimes they'll do 3 for $1 on sale, and I would just go and buy them, and I would eat. That's how I would just be like, oh, this is so good with my coffee, and my sweets. I couldn't do that now. Now it's like when I get a chocolate bar, I'm like, I barely even eat half of the chocolate bar now. And then I prefer the local Ghana chocolate bars now, because now when I eat the foreign ones, I can taste how much more sugar is in those ones compared to the ones here. And then as for donuts, I hardly ever eat donuts now, but yeah, maybe once in a whole year I'll have a donut. Whereas before I was just, it's so gross, wasn't it?
The things that we did in the past, like what? Oh my.
Yeah, I would be that. So yeah, I'm like, so that probably greatly contributed to how big my fibroids were, and mine were growing backwards. So every woman is different. Most women, it grows forward and you end up looking like you're pregnant. Mine were growing back. My stomach was still flat at the time, and they were growing back and down. So they were pressing on my intestines and pressing at my back. So I was having back pain. And so my doctor was like, it was amazing that your stomach was so flat, but they were like literally growing backwards. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Wow.
So every woman's different. Very important. What are the kinds of questions women should be asking their doctors if they think they might have fibroids? Because sometimes doctors can be dismissive. I'm not saying all doctors are, but sometimes doctors can be dismissive when you go in and you're expressing what you're going through. What can she ask to make sure that the things she wants to get done to check to see if she has fibroids, and if they're growing or if they're not growing? Like, what should she do?
Great question. So first thing is making sure your doctor is open to listening to you. If there's been a history of, just challenges getting communication, through, then I would definitely empower you to find another physician. You find a physician, they're listening, start with an ultrasound or MRI to ensure there are not, or if there are growths on the uterus. Number 2, get some blood work done, like a basic panel, just to see if there's also any anemia associated, any other things that could possibly be going on. And based on the advice the doctor gives you, you know what, you hear it, you consider it. However, I do encourage you to be a part of a community in the event that you don't want to do surgery, right? Mm-hmm. You realize you possibly could end up with this again, right? Going the surgery route. So you're looking for a natural route. Find communities. I'm on Facebook. I have a wellness community on there. Plug in so you can see what other women are saying. And that can help bring some clarity on what you need to do. Mm-hmm. Most doctors don't believe there is any other way but surgery or meds. Or they may tell you the H, the big H, hysterectomy. And just know your options. Know that you don't have to get a hysterectomy. Know that you have other options. Just because you have fibroids does not mean you cannot become pregnant. We've had many women in our program who have large fibroids or eliminated them and were able to conceive naturally. There is a lot of unnecessary surgeries being done. So if you feel uncomfortable, your intuition is telling you different, seek otherwise. So community and finding a doctor that's in alignment with you, getting an ultrasound to confirm things, ultrasound or MRI, and see what the doctor says. That's going to allow you to know where this doctor's coming from. If they're saying, hey, eat more healthy, include more veggies, that's going to be different than saying, let's get you scheduled for surgery for 2-centimeter fibroids, right? So ensure that you feel comfortable, you have the information you need to really consider the doctor's advice.
Good advice.
Yeah.
Yeah, good advice. Quickly before we close, I know you've mentioned fertility a few times and said that a woman can conceive naturally even with fibroids. It is something that is a concern to a lot of women. Do you assist women in figuring out what foods they should be eating to help boost fertility? Because that's a conversation that I see online as well.
Absolutely. And the thing is, the same thing that's causing fibroids to grow could be the same thing that's causing you not to get pregnant. So we have to get to the root of the issue. So I really help women lighten their situation to let them know they can conceive. But when you're in a state of stress, chronically fatigued, your body's in lack, deficient, your body's not going to create. It's more of listening to your body and seeing why it's not comfortable to bring another human in. So I really help women decipher through their lifestyle what they need to add and take out, so that way their body's moving towards homeostasis, are more likely to create. We've had women within 6 months of being in the program able to conceive naturally, and they were once told they could not. They either had to get a myomectomy or they have to have a C-section, and none of that was the case.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
And Ivy, we have to be diligent to not allow someone's opinion to determine the fate of how our body can actually work. Mm-hmm. And if we stay more in that state, we're going to get the resources. It's just going to come to us. We're going to become more magnetic. However, I feel that when you're walking in with fear or guilt, that's what you're going to see.
You're right. And it's funny you say that, because there have been times when I've allowed what one doctor has said to affect me, to be like, oh my goodness, I can't believe this. I can't believe this. But we have to know that it's our body, it's our journey, and that we are responsible for doing another check and finding someone else who may listen to what we're saying, or who may have another perspective or another solution to what the challenges that we're facing are. What message do you want to leave this conversation with for my audience? What is the final message you want to share?
The final message is that we need to get out of a state of surviving and move towards thriving, right? there's more to life that we could be missing. And until we start to tap into our lifestyle, our, mindset, emotional health, we may not be here to see it. So it's time to start living in purpose and no longer continue to create this environment for unwanted things to grow. So you got this. Let's go, sister.
You heard it. You got this. Let's go. On that note, thank you so much for watching this important episode. Women's health is key to the survival of mankind. Yes, we are important in this world, and our health, our body, our minds are key. And so just reach out to her. You can find her on Instagram, Fibroid Queen, and she can guide you. You can do a one-on-one session. You can learn a little bit more. So just follow her on Instagram. It's on the screen, and get more information. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching this episode. I appreciate you, and I look forward to seeing you next time.